Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sum, Count, and Beyond, the Spreadsheet Source, Session 7. Today, we will be learning about the average family of functions. In the About section and in the banner image of our channel, you will see a link to a Google Drive folder that has the spreadsheets from all of the sessions. Each file will have at least 2 tabs, Try It Yourself and Solution. We would encourage you to have your own sheet open or download the file and follow along as we go through our examples together. Before we jump in, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Let's get to it. We are going to cover 3 different average functions today: average, average if, and average ifs. We will also look at median and mode. At the most basic level, the average functions, as the name suggests, allow you to average the number of cells in a range quickly and easily. Once again, we will be using Google Sheets for the session today. As a reminder, while we are using Google Sheets, the same concepts can be used in Microsoft Excel as well. Cells B2 through G37 are the March sales report for Wando's widgets, the worldwide winner with widget sales. Column B is the date the sale was made. Column C is the rep who made the sale. Column D is the item sold. Column E is the unit price of each widget. Column F is the number of each widget sold per order. And column G is the revenue generated by the sale, and it's a formula. Now that we understand what is going on with the page, let's start functioning. First, we are going to try the average function. The average function will look at number values, including zeros, but will ignore blank cells. So let's say you're asked to report on the average order size in March. If you think back to session 2, you could go through and add up all the cells and then divide them by the number of non-blank cells, or you could highlight the range and use the status bar, or you could use the average function. So let's highlight this really quick. And it shows sum right now, but if we flip over to average, we can see that the average for the first couple of days in March is 23.75. But we're here to use the average function. So in cell I3, we're going to go ahead and type equals average, open parentheses, F3 through F37, close our parentheses, and we see that the average order size was roughly 25 units. And we can go ahead and check that by selecting column F, going down here to the status bar, we see, again, roughly 25 widgets per order. Let's go back up to the top here. So now let's jump over to cell J3. And what we're going to do is we're going to see what happens if we look at cells that do not have numbers in them. So we're going to do equals average D3 through D37, close our parentheses, hit enter, and we get this error message. So as we said, average, you can only do numbers, so obviously if you're trying to average text, you're going to return an error message. Okay, so next we're going to look at the average if function. So while we are going to show you the average if function, obviously, it's our job, that's why you're all here. As a best practice, we recommend always using average ifs instead of average if, and we'll cover that in a little bit. Okay, on to average if. If you remember back a few minutes ago, we mentioned that average can only be used on cells with numeric values. Average if can be used to average numeric cells based on numeric and non-numeric criteria. The general setup for the average if function is equals average if, open parentheses, the range you want to look at, comma, the condition that range should meet, comma, the range that should be averaged. And similar to SUMIF, that third condition is optional. If you do not select a range, the formula will average the range you selected in the first portion of the formula. So let's say you want to know two different things. One, Sally's average order size, and two, the average order widgets per order in the first half of March. So let's look at Sally first. So go to cell K4. Let's type in Sally, and we'll go ahead and make that blue because it is a hard-coded value. So now we're going to do equals average if, open parentheses. So first we're going to select our criteria range. So we're going to go C3 down to C37, and we can go ahead and lock that in. Then our criteria is going to be K4, which is where we typed Sally earlier. Then comma, the range that we want to average is going to be F3 through F37. We're selecting it a different way this time. We're doing shift down arrow. Again, a lot of different ways to get the range within each cell, so just feel free to use whichever feels most comfortable for you. Down to F37, and we'll close off our parentheses. And we see the number 19, which means that the average order size for Sally was 19 widgets per order. And again, just to reinforce this concept, the reason that we did not just type Sally within the formula is that if there's a situation that comes up and you want to know Bob's sales instead, you can type Bob. If you want to know the average for Pedro, you can type Pedro. Let's flip this back to Sally though. Okay, so on to scenario 2, the average widgets per order in the first half of March. So let's go to cell L4, and we'll do 315.22, and then we'll go to cell L3 and do equals average if, open parentheses. So first we're going to select our criteria range, and so we're going to go excuse me, B3 down to B37, lock it, don't lock it, whatever your preference is, comma, and then we're going to do a open quote, less than or equal, close quote, ampersand, again, shift 7, and then L4, which is where we put our date, and we're going to put a comma in there. And then our average range is going to be F3 through F37, and we'll lock that in as well. Close our parentheses off. And now we see 25.5 repeating. So again, what we're saying with that is that in the first half of March, the average order size was roughly 24 and a half widgets, or round up to 25. So third, we're going to look at the average ifs function. So again, as we mentioned earlier, our preference is to always use average ifs instead of average if, and now we're going to talk through why. So if we go back a few minutes, the formula for average if in words is equals average if, open parentheses, the range you want to look at, comma, the condition that range should meet, comma, the range you want to average, close parentheses. For average ifs, the formula in words is equals average ifs, open parentheses, the range you want to average, comma, range 1 to look at, comma, range 1 condition, comma, range 2 to look at, comma, range 2 condition, and then you can continue to add conditions in a similar manner, and then a close parentheses. So again, very similar to sum if and sum ifs, when you want to go from a single condition to average to multiple conditions, it's a lot harder to change, which is why we always recommend using average ifs. Okay, back to the spreadsheet. So let's say we want to look at the orders that Pedro, or the number of widgets for Pedro and widget 4. So let's go to M4 here, and we'll type in Pedro. Then in M5, we're going to type in widget 4. And again, we're looking for the average order size here. So going back to M3, we're going to do equals average ifs, open our parentheses. And remember, because we're doing average ifs, we want to do the average range first. So that's going to be F3 down to F37. We'll lock that in, comma. So now remember, our first criteria is going to be Pedro. So let's go over here to column C, and we're going to do C3 down to C37, comma M4. Again, we want to meet that condition in cell M4. Then comma. Now our second range is going to be widget 4. So we're going to select D3 through D37, which is where the name of the widget is. Go ahead and lock that. And then comma M5. And we'll close our parentheses. So what we see here is there's an error, meaning that Pedro didn't sell any widget 4s in the month of March. So now let's flip it and let's see what Jim widget 4. So the average order size for widget 4 for Jim in March was 22. Okay, finally we're going to look at median and mode. This figured like the best place to put those in instead of having a separate lesson on those. So we'll start with median, and if we remember back to math class, median is just the middle value in a data range. So formula is pretty straightforward, so it's going to be equals median, and let's do units sold. So we'll do F3 down to F37, and we get 22. So what does that mean? You know, as opposed to the average, it's just if the numbers were lined up from the smallest to the largest, the middle value is 22. Okay, next we're going to look at mode. And if we go back to high school math class, or maybe grade school, depending on how smart you are, mode is the value that appears the most times. So again, the formula is really straightforward. It's just going to be equals mode. And we'll go to units sold. So F3 through F37. Close our parentheses off. And so the most frequent number of orders is 16. So we saw the number of orders with 16 was the most throughout the month of March. So to sum everything up, the average family of functions are extremely useful when trying to find the average of a given range of cells. You can count on this session to help you understand how the different average functions work, in addition to learning median and mode and examples of how they can be used with a sample data set. And let's keep taking your spreadsheet knowledge beyond what you thought was possible.